This is Peter Parker from Earth 123, and early on in his senior year of high school he was bit by a spider that turned out to alter his DNA and give him superpowers. And it wasn't long after that where Peter would become Spider-Man. And for a while everything was amazing to Peter as he spent a lot of time defending the streets of New York. Until one day, Peter was walking home from the store when he saw that his Uncle Ben got shot. And it turns out that Uncle Ben, who just so happened to be a really big college football fan, well, he had some final words to say to Peter. Win a Heisman, Peter. And from there, Peter Parker knew exactly what he had to do. So today I am putting Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, into College Football 26. Let's see if Peter can become a great football player and potentially win a Heisman, as we follow him on his road to glory. Now all throughout high school, Peter had never played a single snap of football. And one day when he was hanging out with some girls, someone threw a football at him, and he snagged it like he was Odell or something, man. He threw it right back and broke the goalpost. So yeah, them boys wanted him on the squad, and soon Peter was a member of the Midtown High football team. And he could not wait to get into the first game of his career, and he was looking forward to showing some coaches around the country that he had potential to play at the next level. Now since Peter had never really played a lot of football, they didn't put him in until the second quarter. But when he did get in, unfortunately he didn't do what he was supposed to do and caused his quarterback to throw a pick. So definitely a rough start for Peter, but they brought him back out here during the 2-minute drill, and it looks like Peter Parker's starting to get some things going. Okay, Peter. He was showing that he had ability to play from the slot and the outside, making a play that helped his team get across the 50 in the third quarter, and eventually down to the goal line where Peter got himself open and came up with his first touchdown of his high school career. Peter was already catching eyes from recruits as he was playing in one of the best divisions in New York City. And by the end of this game, after his team was able to come up with a win, Peter Parker was now a 2-star recruit. And he is already beginning to get some scholarships from programs that are nearby. That's exactly what Peter's looking for, as he definitely wants to stay close to home. But that's something he can worry about later, as he has to stay locked in on his high school career. And after Peter had a great game in the previous week, the coaches have now decided to start him, and he is already coming up with some nice catches. He helped Midtown High get down to the goal line where he was able to come up with a touchdown. He was already becoming a factor for his team, as he was pretty much catching everything. And he was coming up with some spectacular plays while he was at it. Peter Parker was showing that he could be a dominant receiver, and that's exactly why he was now a 3-star recruit. He was getting a lot of love from coaches in the area as he was thinking about signing with Syracuse. So things are definitely going well for Peter right now, but it turns out one of Peter's teammates are not happy that he's taking his shot. So he was going to go ahead and try to punch Peter in the face, but Peter dodged that right there. Oh yeah, see, Peter did not want to hurt him. But after his teammate tried to hit him with a 4-piece combo, yeah, see, that wasn't going to fly with Peter. So Peter just decided to grab his wrist and hit him with that boy, get out of here, boy. Peter was taking care of business off the field, and he was definitely taking care of it on it. In his next game, he came up with the first down for his team before he said, hey, helping to put them in scoring range. And this was definitely a game where Peter was beginning to show that he could become one of the best receivers in the nation, as he is somehow able to run through this entire defense for a touchdown, putting up a score that would now officially make him a 4-star recruit. Peter Parker was really working his way up for Uncle Ben, man. He was locked in. And don't y'all forget, man, he is doing all this while still making time to be Spider-Man. But after taking a look at his recruiting board, Peter's just trying to figure out what college he wants to go to, because now it is time for him to head into his final game of his high school career, where it will be his last chance to make some plays and earn his way to the next level. Now, it was not long into this game where Peter would say, "Mwang," coming up with an easy pitch and catch for a touchdown that puts his team up by 2 possessions in the first quarter. And this turned out to be another great game for Peter, as he would catch his second touchdown in the second quarter. He had his team up by 2 possessions before his opponent would make a comeback. So with less than a minute left in this game, Midtown High needed somebody to make a play. And it turned out that it would be Peter's teammate, Miles Morales. He comes up with a huge play that gets Midtown High in the end zone for 6, giving Midtown High the win and officially making Peter Parker a 5-star recruit. Within just a few weeks, Peter went from an actual nobody to one of the top recruits in the entire nation. But now that it was time for him to make his college decision soon, he had some equipmental ability, but he decided to just stick with his spidey senses, man. He was going to be fine with that. But now it is officially time for Peter Parker to make his college decision. And his top 3 choices would actually be SMU, Rutgers, and Syracuse. And after officially deciding that he was not going to SMU, Peter would ultimately decide to sign with Rutgers. Now, as soon as he got to Rutgers, it turns out that they did not have his number 2, but he did end up liking the number 15, so he decided to stick with that. And it was actually around this time where Peter would find out that his friend Mary Jane would also be going to Rutgers. She actually wanted to hang out and explore the campus together, which Peter thought would be nice because he always had a crush on her. So Peter was definitely looking forward to that, but he was not looking forward to interacting with his head coach. Because it turns out that even though Peter was a 5-star recruit, he would be riding the bench this season, which obviously Peter was not happy about, but he accepted it and was ready to lock in and just try to get to work at practice. Peter was actually doing a great job showing the coaches what he can do during fall camp. But Peter was also doing a great job showing that he cared about saving this city. And since Rutgers was only about a 20-minute swing away, he had to spend some time as Spider-Man before he got into the regular season. And oh yeah, he sees somebody right there, hold on. Oh yeah, what's up bitches, Spider-Man here. You see, Peter could not spend too much time on these dudes because he had to get back to college. So he started webbing them up and sent this one dude's jaw to the moon before slamming him down, and he was able to make it back in time for some practice. And it would actually take up until the season started for the coaches to see that Peter was a lot more athletic than they thought. So they decided that they would actually give him some reps going into the first game of the year, where Rutgers would now be on the road facing off against Boston College. Now Peter would actually make his debut here in the first quarter, where he had a nice release off the line to get himself open and come up with a great catch. That boy Peter snagged that ball at the air with one hand. He made a play that had the coaches trusting him to be out there on 3rd and 9. Where it turned out to be Peter who not only came up with the catch but brought them deep into scoring range. Now unfortunately Coach Jameson would take him out and would not put him back in until the 4th quarter. And Peter had actually done a great job making a play that got his team back into field goal range, helping them take the lead before Boston College would go downfield and take it right back, bringing us to first down with 12 seconds left, or at least they thought it was 12 seconds left because Boston College was cheating. Them boys took a page out of the Patriots playbook and ran the clock all the way down, so after Peter comes up with this catch that brings his team across midfield, it was already too little too late, as Rutgers would go on to lose the first game of the year, dropping this one by 1 point, but Peter felt pretty good about how he played. 4 receptions for 67 yards is pretty good for his first game. So going into next week, he felt confident asking head coach J. Jonah Jameson if it was possible that he can get the ball more.
Are you serious?
Now Coach Jameson did laugh in Peter Parker's face, but that was before he realized that they were about to play against one of the worst teams in the country. And it would be a perfect opportunity to develop some of his young talent, including Parker, as Rutgers was heading into the first home game of the year, where they will be matched up against FCS East. Now once again early on in the first quarter, they put Peter Parker out there in the game, and on his very first play, he decided to say, "Mwanga!" He snagged this ball at the air for 42 yards, coming up with the play that he thought impressed the coaches, but they actually take him out. They did bring him back in when FCS East was actually winning this game, and Peter was out here helping the team pick up some more first downs. Almost every single time that they threw to Peter, he was snagging the ball at the air even with one hand. And eventually by the 3rd quarter, when his team was still down in this game, he came up with the catch that not only gave his team a first down, but also put him over 100 yards on the day for the first time in his career. But Peter knew with his team still down and him still being in the game, that he had to try and make something happen to help his team come up with a win. So after getting past all the DBs on this play, Peter was able to get over the top and say, "Mwanga!" snagging this ball at the air with one hand for his first touchdown of his college football career. Oh yeah, Peter Parker showing that he different. He came out here on the very next drive and continued to show that he can get past his defense and come up with another one-handed catch. Peter Parker was making some immaculate plays, doing just enough to help his team come up with a 16-7 W. And Rutgers can thank their true freshman Peter Parker, who went for 199 receiving yards off of 6 receptions. He had a spectacular game, and he couldn't help but feel like this is what he'll need to keep doing if he ever wants to live up to Uncle Ben's final wishes. Now on top of things going really well for Peter in football, he was also now dating Mary Jane. And as far as being Spider-Man at the moment, things were going pretty well. He was actually in the process of figuring out if he wanted to upgrade to a new suit, which made him realize that maybe he should upgrade some of his gear on the football field. He felt good about how he had been playing on the field, and he wanted to start looking good too. So going into his next game, Peter Parker was completely locked in with his new look, and he was ready to help his team try and come up with their second win of the season. Now, since Peter had a spectacular game last week, they're giving him the ball a lot in this one. And one thing for sure is that Peter is definitely not disappointed, because by the 3rd quarter, he would already have 4 receptions, and his 5th one would be a one-hander. He came up with a play that helped his team get into scoring range and maintain their lead in the 4th quarter, where even though Peter actually comes up with the catch for a first down, he gets taken out the game and is brought back in with his team down. Rutgers has to find a way to come up with a touchdown with less than 30 seconds left, but Peter's doing a great job giving them a chance. But at this point with around 10 seconds left, Spider-Man knows that his team needs somebody to make a play. But it turns out that his spider senses were tingling, because he knew that he would be able to get open on this play and come up with a catch for a touchdown. Peter Parker was coming up with the score with less than 10 seconds left, making a massive play that not only gives his team the lead, but gives them their second win of the season. Rutgers is able to close this one out 20-17. And it looks like Coach Jameson had changed his tune about Peter getting some receptions, as he finished this one with 144 yards and 9 catches. He was becoming a focal point of this offense, and ultimately the coaching staff decided that they would give him a chance to move up to wide receiver 1. Peter Parker had been an extremely important player for Rutgers so far throughout the season, and he continued to show exactly why all throughout practice. The coaches realized that he had some serious potential to become one of the top receivers in the nation, so eventually they would make the decision to officially move him up, and they cannot wait to see what he can do heading into the next game of the season, where it looks like Rutgers is heading on the road to face off against 3-0 Northwestern. Now, Peter was playing well early on in this one, but unfortunately he was not able to catch everything. And against a team that had been playing well all throughout the season, Northwestern definitely had Rutgers' number, at least throughout the majority of this first half, until Peter would start coming up with some big catches that moved the team into field goal range. Eventually they were able to get down to the goal line with less than 15 seconds left, where Peter had run a Spencer James-ass route and came up with a touchdown. A big play that puts his team up and actually gives them some momentum going into the second half. And now that Rutgers is playing with a lead, Peter has no problem coming out here and saying, "Wang," snagging his ball over 2 defenders and moving his team past midfield. Peter was continuing to come up with some plays that helped his team move all the way down to the 1-yard line, where on first down the running back was able to get in the end zone for a score. And from there, Rutgers pretty much had all the momentum, as Peter continued to fry up his defense, as he not only came up with his second touchdown, but by the end of the third quarter, he was now coming up with his third. Peter Parker was having his best day so far of his college football career, and it was because of him that his team would go on to blow out Northwestern, just dominating them 31-13 thanks to an 150-yard performance and 3 touchdowns from Peter Parker. A big day from the true freshman, but it was actually only going to get bigger, because it turns out that his best friend Harry was going to set him up with a research lab at Oscorp. And because Peter's best friend's dad actually owned the company, Peter would now have a chance to get some work done and do some research in his spare time. But that is definitely going to have to wait, as for now he is locked in on football. And his team's definitely going to need him to be, as he is heading into one of the toughest games on the schedule. Because although Rutgers will be at home, they have to face off against a top 25 ranked team, as they're set to match up against fake-ass Patrick Mahomes and Nebraska. Now, Peter Parker would get this game started out hot. He came up with a reception before saying, "Hey," and out of nowhere, Peter was breaking loose. He was outrunning most of these defenders, but he could not outrun the last guy, and he gets stopped in field goal range, ultimately setting his teammate up with a chance to punch this one across for a score. Taking the lead in the first quarter, and things are looking good for Rutgers after they get the ball back. And back down at the goal line, they came up with another touchdown that put them up by 14. So right now, they're actually in excellent position as they still have the lead before half. But after Peter Parker makes an incredible catch, snagging his ball out the air and putting his team back into field goal range, Rutgers now had a chance to extend their lead, which they eventually did with the touchdown. Rutgers had complete control of this game, and they would maintain it until the fourth quarter, where after this play, when Peter runs the post and snags this ball, he comes up with a touchdown that puts Rutgers back up by 2 possessions and does enough to put this game away. Rutgers was taking down one of the top teams in the country 28-21, largely thanks to their true freshman Peter Parker, who had another 100-yard game. Peter had been taking care of business all season on the field, and one day when he went to take care of business off the field, he realized that he is right by his high school field. It hasn't even been a year and he is already missing Midtown, man. But Peter was a little bummed out though, because they would actually redesign this field and he never got a chance to play on it. But Peter is glad that he gets to play on his new field in New Jersey, especially heading into the next week as Rutgers is facing off against another top 25 team in the nation. They will have a chance to prove that they can keep matching up against some of the best squads in the country, as Rutgers is now taking on number 22, USC. Now, Peter started this game off playing pretty much just as well as he had all season, coming up with a play that helped his team get down to the goal line, where shortly after another player would take advantage with a touchdown, helping his team come up with a score that gave him a 7-0 lead, and Rutgers was just trying to keep the momentum going from there. They came to a second down and 6 where they sent Peter in a little motion and got the ball to him quickly on the inside, and from there Peter looked like he was ready to make a play, man. He is out here making people miss. He stiff arms 2 people back to back before deciding to jump over another guy, and oh wow, Peter Parker is gone. He is just barely outrunning this big-ass defender. Is that the Rhino? Either way, Peter is able to get to the end zone, and he comes up with easily the best play of his season so far. Peter damn near almost revealed that he was Spider-Man on that play. So going forward throughout this one, he knew he had to tone it down a bit and come up with some normal plays that could still help his team, like this deep reception downfield. At some point, Peter got to 200 yards on the day, and with the chance to close out this game, he was looking to add to it by coming up with this reception before jumping over another player. Peter Parker had completely taken over this game, and that's exactly why the Scarlet Knights would go on to dominate the Trojans, closing this one out 38-14, and shout out to Peter Parker, who had another one of his best performances of the season, and because of him, his team was on a 5-game win streak. Regardless, Peter still gave credit to his teammates when asked about the team's success, but Peter knew that this was only the beginning because soon he would have to lock back in for another huge game, as this one was by far going to be the toughest game of the year, with Rutgers now heading on the road to face off against number 13th ranked Penn State. Now, Peter already had 50 yards receiving in this game by the second quarter, and he was adding to it with a huge one-handed reception. He was coming up with a play that he really hoped would set the tone for his team, because going forward, they were pretty much force-feeding Peter the ball. By the end of the second quarter, he already had 15 receptions and 121 yards, helping his team get down to the goal line where they came up with a score to tie this game up at 7. But Peter's impact in this game would only continue as he was coming up with his 19th reception and breaking multiple tackles to pick up a first down. And on the very next play, Peter came up with his 20th reception. I'm not 100%, but I'm pretty sure that's got to break some sort of record. But that don't really matter right now because Peter's trying to build upon it with his 21st. But the quarterback throws a pick, and this DB is actually able to take it all the way to the crib for a touchdown, giving Penn State the lead, and now they have all the momentum on their side. Now, Peter did come back out here and continue to catch anything that came his way, helping his team get down to the goal line with the chance to put up some points, but unfortunately Peter could not catch everything, as the quarterback throws another pick, and all of a sudden Rutgers is now down by 2 possessions. So at this point, Peter knows that he has to lock in, and he's got to try to find a way to get his team back in the scoring range, which he does after he comes up with a great reception here in the fourth quarter. He has 28 receptions for over 300 yards, and after his team was able to come out here and put up a touchdown, somehow with all those touches, Peter was not a player who was able to get in the end zone, and it's too bad that he would never get the chance, because Penn State would take down Rutgers 17-14. Rutgers takes their second loss of the season despite Peter having one of, if not the greatest game in the history of college football for a receiver. He had absolutely dominated and only had 3 drops out of 28 receptions. Despite the loss though, Peter did go on to break quite a few records and earn himself his first National Offensive Player of the Week. So he did still feel pretty good about himself. Well, that was until he found out that his girlfriend Mary Jane was cheating on him with his best friend Harry. Oh, nah, that made Peter sick. He just wanted to lay down and try and forget about all of this, but little did he know that something was about to take over, and things were about to change for Spider-Man. Oh shit. Spider-Man got infected by a symbiote, giving him a black suit. And now Spider-Man is angry, man. He came out here and broke a metal pipe on this dude's head before punching this dude's jaw to the moon and snapping his neck on the ground, bro. Yeah, Peter not playing around. Oh yeah, something is definitely different with Peter at this point. He is feeling angry. But since he actually liked this black suit, he convinced his coaches to let them wear black jerseys in the next game, as now Rutgers was looking to get back on track heading into their next matchup against Indiana. Now this one was turning out to be another game where they were giving the ball to Peter as much as possible. He was pretty much demanding the ball, and by the end of the first half, he would come up with a touchdown, putting his team up by a possession as they head into the third quarter. But by the fourth quarter, Indiana was taking that lead right back. So on this third down, Peter knew that he had to come up with a play to try and help his team, so he decided to say, "Mwang," coming up with a catch and breaking off a tackle that brings his team in the red zone, where they now had a chance to tie this game up. But it turns out that Peter had different plans as he came up with his 17th reception and his second touchdown of the day, putting up a score for the Scarlet Knights in the final minutes of this game and helping Rutgers come out with a 24-17 W. They get back on track thanks to their freshman who went for another 200-yard day. Peter Parker was absolutely on fire in the second half of the season, and he definitely had no plans of slowing down as he was heading on the road to face off against Cincinnati, where in this one Peter was once again frying these DBs all throughout the first half. He already had over 100 yards on the day, and by the time he came up with his 6th reception, it would be for a touchdown. A score that gave his team the lead heading into the second half before Cincinnati would take it right back. But even in a game where Peter was being double-teamed, he would still come up with one-handed catches over defenders, setting his tone for his team as by the fourth quarter they were down inside the red zone, and after Peter does a great job taking advantage of all the space on the outside, he's able to break off a tackle and jump over a defender in the end zone. Peter Parker comes up with another incredible play that is leading his team to another win on the season. Peter Parker almost has back-to-back 200-yard games, But he does have another game that leads to him breaking another record for Rutgers. So at this point, things were looking great for Peter Parker. But little did he know that behind the scenes, something was happening with Norman Osborn that would affect his life in the near future. But at the moment, Peter was just trying to get used to the fact that his head coach seemed to like him now. I mean, it's kind of hard not to when your true freshman was this good this early. And he had absolutely no fear heading on the road into another game where Rutgers would face off against 2-7 Wisconsin. Now at this point, Peter was still carrying that Venom symbiote, so he was looking pretty strong in this one, man. He was out here breaking out tackles and came up with an easy touchdown here in the first quarter. He set the tone for his team in what turned out to be another win for the Scarlet Knights, taking down Wisconsin as they moved to 8-2 on the season. And before Peter even realized, Rutgers was now ranked the 15th team in the country. They had definitely come a long way from being one of the lowest ranked teams in the nation. Absolutely nobody expected them to be good this year until they got a 5-star recruit, but even then, people still don't expect them to be competitive in their next game. As now, Rutgers was officially heading into the biggest game of the year. This game was giving them a chance to not only move into the top 10 teams in the country, but they would also have an opportunity to take down the #1 team in the nation, as Rutgers will be at home to face off against the Michigan Wolverines. Now Michigan would take the lead here early on, going up 7-0, but Peter was doing an excellent job here, especially in his first half, as he already had 5 receptions and was going for his 6th to put his team inside the red zone. Bringing us to a 2nd down and 10 where Peter ran a great route that gave him leverage, and he got open for an easy touchdown to tie this game up. And after starting to play football not even a year ago, Peter almost can't even believe that he is doing this against the best team in the country at the highest level. But as Michigan takes the lead in the second half and his offense begins to struggle, Peter doesn't have such a hard time believing it anymore, especially after Michigan finds a way to go up 21-10. So Peter has to come out here and make some big plays to get his team back across field. Eventually bringing us to the 4th quarter, we're on 3rd down and goal. Peter comes up with his 2nd touchdown of the day. He brought his team back in this one with the chance to potentially tie this one up or even take the lead. But that was until Michigan extended their lead to 2 possessions. And now with around a minute left, this is starting to seem like a game that's going to be tough to come back from. But after, without calling for the ball, the quarterback threw a pick. That would pretty much wipe away all of Rutgers' hopes and dreams for this season, as they would end up taking their 3rd loss of the season to the #1 team in the nation, dropping this one 24-14 in a game that pretty much removes any chance for Rutgers to make the college football playoffs. At this point in the season though, Peter Parker has almost 2,000 yards receiving. So regardless of the fact that his team might not be in the postseason, Peter was actually feeling pretty good. He wanted to become a great football player and win an award for his Uncle Ben. But unfortunately, he might only get a couple more chances to do so heading into the final game of the regular season, with Rutgers now heading on the road to face off against 4-7 Maryland. Now no surprise, early on in this one, Peter was playing well, but he was doing it in different ways as he freed up one of his teammates and got them wide open in the end zone for a score. He had Rutgers going up 7 in this one early, and he was hoping that they would never look back. By the 2nd quarter, they still had that 7-point lead, and Peter was doing a great job looking to add to it as he came up with a big reception that puts him over 100 yards. And in a game where Peter was out here drawing a lot of attention, he was once again able to free up one of his teammates for another touchdown. Rutgers is scoring points that puts him up by 2 possessions heading into the second half, bringing us to the end of the 3rd quarter where Maryland is trying to do their best to bracket Peter Parker. But it is not working out for them as Peter snags his ball over a defender, coming up with his first score of the day that puts his team back up by 2 possessions. Now leading us here to the 4th, where Rutgers has a chance to put this one away with a couple more first downs. Bringing us to 3rd down and 6 where Peter got himself open to the outside, and Peter goes up and snags this one, barely getting 1 foot in bounds. He makes a play that keeps the chains moving and helps the Scarlet Knights come up with their 9th victory of the season. They close out the regular season with one of their best records in program history, and the entire team knows that it could not have been done without Peter Parker. But unfortunately, with the team currently sitting as the number 21st ranked team in the nation, it looks like they will not be able to make the college football playoffs. So not necessarily the way the team wanted to end the year, but at the very least, Peter Parker did go on to break a lot of records this season. He played so well that he actually ended up earning himself the Walter Camp Award, as he had a season with over 2,000 yards, 130 receptions, and 15 touchdowns. Peter Parker had absolutely balled out, as he not only earned himself the Sean Alexander and the Maxwell Award, but he would also earn himself the Heisman Trophy, the first one to ever do so in the history of Rutgers, and the first ever true freshman to ever win it in the history of college football. Peter Parker had already established himself as one of the greatest receivers in the history of the game. And as he saw that he was winning a bunch of other awards, he couldn't help but think about his Uncle Ben, and he was reminded of something that he had once been told.
With great power comes great responsibility.
And just like that, Peter started to realize that although this black suit made him feel powerful, it also made him feel very angry. For now though, he was just going to deal with it as he was heading into the final game of the season. And he was still hoping the black suit would help him in this one, as he was trying to come up with a win in the final game of the year, with Rutgers getting set to face off against the Texas Longhorns. Now Texas had the early 7-0 lead in this one, and even though Peter was doing a great job of getting open, his quarterback was throwing some crazy passes that resulted in Peter getting flagged for an offensive pass interference. So that pretty much puts an end to their opening possession, and it wouldn't be until another third down in the second quarter where Peter would finally come up with his first reception of the day. He was going to try and help his team get downfield and put up some points until his quarterback threw a pick. Yeah, Peter has no idea what's going on with the quarterback this game, but he is playing garbage. And all of a sudden, Texas is up 17-0, literally the biggest deficit that Rutgers has faced all season. So I'm not gonna lie, it's starting to feel like panic mode, but Peter Parker was not panicking. He comes up with a reception that brings him down the sideline and in the end zone for a score. Spider-Man makes a play to bring the team within 2 possessions, and then Texas would put it back to 3. So now Rutgers is back in a hole, but after Texas has a busted coverage, Peter Parker is heading back towards the end zone again, coming up with a score that gets his team within 2 possessions again as he tries to get the Scarlet Knights back in this game. Unfortunately, that Longhorns offense seems like it was not messing around, as they go back up by 3 possessions in the third quarter, and after a play where for some reason Peter doesn't even go up for this catch, Rutgers is now forced to punt the ball again, and they are now down by multiple possessions. Out of nowhere, Rutgers fell way behind in this one, but on the bright side, Peter was getting himself open and broke off a tackle for another score, coming up with a big play that gets his team on the board and at least makes this one closer, but at the end of the day, it was not enough. And this would officially be the end of Peter Parker's freshman season. They get blown out in this one 41-21, and instead of being angry about the loss, he just appreciated the fact that he had an incredible season, putting up over 2,200 yards and 18 touchdowns. He had led the entire nation. But in a season where he had played for one of the lowest level teams in the country, Peter was honestly contemplating hitting the transfer portal and possibly head to a team that would have made his Uncle Ben even more proud by potentially winning a national championship. But before Peter could even think about doing that, man, he had to rip off this black suit. He had to get back to being himself again, and eventually he did. Spider-Man was back to protecting this city, and he was taking some time to think about his college future because he definitely had a big decision to make. But I'll leave that decision up to you guys. If you want to see a part 2 of Peter Parker in College Football 26, be sure to get this video to 1,000 likes and subscribe to the channel down below. Also be sure to comment down below where you guys want him to head to. And you know what, speaking of comments, I think I'm gonna start shouting out people who spend time engaging with my videos. So a big shout out to one lil Hayden, who along with a few other people on my Superman video requested that I do Spider-Man. You guys' comments do matter, and I literally did this video because y'all asked. Another quick shout out to Jeff Phillips 1832. Your channel is great, you deserve so many more subs. I agree. I'm still a really small YouTuber, man. I edit all my videos myself, and I appreciate it when I'm able to earn comments like this, so I'm gonna keep working as hard as possible so I can stay earning them. I love you guys, man. College football and NFL football is back. Let me know who you guys think is gonna win between Texas and Ohio State, and other than that, I'm gonna catch you guys next time.